the key focus, one is to make sure the 5 that they've got are the best they can have at that particular time. Okay, that they are developing each one of those people and moving them forwards, supporting them, holding them to account, because everybody needs to be held to account. Yeah. And given the resources they need to deliver the job.
Do you want to grow your business? I've never met a business leader who doesn't. In today's episode, you'll learn a simple yet powerful approach to achieving growth. And fundamentally, it comes down to 3 things. Set clear goals, delegate, and employ people who'll challenge you. Our guest, Kevin Stansfield, is the founder and director of action coach Solent and author of 3 books, Profit Builders, The Big Dipper, and The Great Game. Kevin lost his dad to a business that consumed him, and he made a promise to himself that he would save others from making the same mistake. These are my 3 key takeaways from my conversation with Kevin. Do you think leaders have a fear of delegating?
I don't think they have a fear of it. I think what happens is they're not trained on it. No one teaches you delegating when you start working. When you climb the ladder. I can't even remember. I did an MBA quite a few years ago, and I don't remember a course on delegation within that course. You're not taught it as a kid at school, at college. So delegation is very much a learned thing. And, if you stay in one organization and work your way up, your teachers are the people that are above you, and those teachers have never been taught. So what happens is we're just taught bad habits. Either we have no idea what it is, or we're taught how to do it wrong. I think that's one of the big things is no one takes a step back and goes, look, this delegation is not simple. Or say it is quite simple, but it's not easy. But how should we do it? How could I do it actually better? If we look at other things in our business lives, we like to learn how to do it better. Sales, we want to do how to do it better. Marketing, how do we do it better? Finance, how do we do it better? But the whole thing around sort of delegation is very few people are asking those questions.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like in the space we play in, sort of business and coaching and those sorts of things, delegation is something that just comes up in all conversations. Business owners are talking about delegating and leaders of organizations or teams talking about delegating, but do they actually, why wouldn't we be talking about, or why wouldn't people be learning it more specifically, seeing as though it's such a common term? Have you put much thought into that?
Yeah, I deal predominantly with business owners. So, they're looking at the whole aspect of their business, but anybody in management, that has a team of people, the challenge is they've generally got more to do than they can get done. They've got 6 hats to wear. They come in on a Monday and the thing they wanted to get done suddenly gets hijacked. So the big thing is generally for these people is time. There isn't time to take a step back to think about this, to go, actually, how do I build a high performance team? How do I actually make my players play better? We were talking about football earlier. And the great thing with a manager is they're purely there to help their team play better. That's their fact. They don't jump on the pitch and run around and save goals and kick the ball in the net. They sit on the sidelines and, during the match, they can't actually, apart from shout a bit, they can't actually influence what's going on the pitch. The problem within management, within business is the manager is often running around the pitch. The goal is in goal and he goes, well, you're not particularly good and I'm a better goalie than you are. So we'll move the goalie out of the way and start saving. And he'll realise that the front players aren't scoring enough goals. So run up to the front and start grabbing the ball and kicking the ball in the net. And all the players are going, well, fine, if he wants to do all that, then I just let him get on with it. I'm going to go home at 5 o'clock, and the boss is there till 7, 8 o'clock at night doing their work after they've spent the whole day doing other people's work.
Great analogy. Over the years, have you had much theory around why do business owners act like that? They know they shouldn't, but they do.
I think because they care, because they want to do a good job. Often they've got bosses above them that are asking them to do more and more and more. And sometimes the quickest way to get things done is to do it yourself. Because I don't have to think about it. You generally got to a position of management because you're good at what you do. There was a book in the 1960s called Peter's Principle. I don't know if you come across that book.
No.
So it was why management in the or British industry was failing, basically. And Peter's Principle is everybody gets promoted to one level above their level of competence. So you're good at what you do, you get promoted. Yeah, you're good at what you do, you get promoted. You're average, not particularly good at what you do, and therefore you stick. So we rise to the level of our competence, and then we're not particularly competent there, and therefore what we lack in competency we make up in effort. So we find a lot of managers that are sort of the busy ones. So I always, when I go into a business and I look around the team there, if the manager is the busiest person amongst the team, then something's wrong. If the manager's sitting at their desk, with nothing on their desk, sitting twiddling their thumbs, then they're doing something right because they've delegated and their team are working. Now, the problem with that is if performance isn't great within the team and the boss comes down and looks at that person sitting at their desk twiddling their thumbs, what's he going to say?
He's not going to be too happy.
Won't be too happy. So the guy goes, oh shit, perhaps I better do some stuff then. So I'll get involved and I'll start, being busy, because being busy feels like, well, at least I'm trying to do something, rather than actually thinking, well, what should I be doing? What's right to be doing? Perhaps I should just be spending more time actually working with the team to improve their level of performance.
What factor does trust play, mate, in even the mind shift of wanting to delegate?
Trust is at the heart of management of teams. If we don't have trust, then we can't have a team. And the best book on this was Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And he looked at it and said, if you don't have trust within a team, then you can't have a team. You can't have team performance, because everything depends on that. And you're looking at, say, we use football as an analogy, but in any sport, if the people on the pitch, don't trust each other implicitly, then that team won't perform, because you've got to know that your team member's got your back, that is looking after you, and is gonna be there and help you and support you. Take that into the forces. The way that the forces have developed. I mean, they're one of the sort of the oldest teams out there. Been going hundreds and hundreds of years. There's a certain size of team that works within the forces, because if that team gets too big, then the trust diminishes. We have this thing that we can sort of have a close relationship with about 6 people. Beyond that 6 people, then that relationship starts to, I'd say, break down, but it weakens. So if you look at your close knit group of friends and family, it'll be around about 6 people that you have that implicit trust with. So the problem with big businesses is obviously they're more than 6 people. So we end up with, say 600 people. Building that trust is implicit within the team. And that's one of the big things that the leader needs to be able to do. And certainly if the leader himself or herself can't build trust, then it will struggle. And that's why they talk about the difference between IQ and EQ. So intellectual quotient and emotional quotient, that great leaders have very high EQ, quite high IQ, but actually EQ is more important. That emotional, be able to read themselves, understand their own emotions and understand other people, because trust comes from emotional connection rather than intellectual question. Sort of just because you're intelligent doesn't mean I'm going to trust you. as we saw within COVID. Some very intelligent people saying things and people just didn't trust them.
Great point. Absolutely. Let's get into the nitty gritty, mate. I'm a business owner. I'm running around like crazy, very busy, haven't got enough hours in the day, all that sort of stuff, that mindset that's part of it. I know I've got to do something, taking you on board. You're going to help me grow a business that is less reliant on me. How do I even identify tasks that might be suitable for delegating to other people in my team?
I suppose the easy thing within a business owner and in any business as well is everything. Just start there. Right. At some point, everything needs to be delegated because as a business owner, the whole purpose of having a business is you grow it to a point where it doesn't need you and you can sell it. That's why would you have a business that hadn't got the ability to sell at some point in the future? It's a bit like a property investor buys a property, with a point at some point they will sell that property. You buy stocks and shares with a view that you're going to sell those stocks and shares at some point in the future. So if you start on the point that everything needs to be delegated, then it's just a case of, well, what's first? What's the first thing that I need to get off my hands? And I would say that the first thing we need to delegate are the things that we don't enjoy doing and we're not particularly good at.
Sounds like a great starting point. If I'm just so we can relate to listeners who are, say, leading a team as well, it's not their business. Should they have the same mindset about starting with everything?
I think with those people, it would be a case of being really clear what the role and the goal is. Because it's difficult for me to say that because obviously they're not just management; they have a role as well, so they'll have to do something. Otherwise, as I said, if they're sitting at their desk with nothing to do and the boss comes down, there may be some words to be had. So the first thing, and it's the same with anybody, it's what is the goal and what is the role. So for me, when I start with a client, we look at the organization structure, okay, and we start at the top. So the top of an organization structure would be what, Brendan? Who would be sitting at the top?
CEO, Chief Executive Officer.
Okay. That's what most people think. But who does a CEO report to?
If it's could be a board, chairman.
Okay. So who does the chairman report to?
Shareholders.
Shareholders. Okay. So at the top of every organization, three are the shareholders. Who owns the company? Who put their money into the company to get it going? So the shareholders are sitting at the top. Yeah. So from a shareholder perspective, what is the goal of a shareholder?
As a shareholder, I'm looking to maximize returns.
Maximize returns. Yeah. Okay. So maximize, and that comes in the shape of dividends and shareholder value. Okay. So if I get lots of dividends, I'm happy. And if my shares go up in value, I'm happy. There may be a corporate social responsibility as well, that I want the world to be a better place. So you'd add that in there, but if you're not making money, then you can't make the world a better place. That's the Western world. That's commercialism, like it or loathe it. That's what makes the world go round. So from a shareholder point of view, we've got to make money in order to pay dividends and shareholder value. The number on the profit and loss account that drives that is which number. So which number means that we can pay dividends and which number means that we can have increase in value of our shares.
The profit?
The profit. Okay. So the shareholders therefore delegate the running of their business to the CEO. Because shareholders don't run businesses. Okay, so I've got shares in ICI, in Tesla, in Apple. Yeah, I don't run those businesses, do I? Okay, I get to vote once a year at the AGM as to whether I keep the board of directors headed by the CEO, and whether I want the dividend or not. That's it. That's the only input I have as a shareholder in an organisation, and that's the first thing that goes wrong with a small business is the owner, the shareholder, goes out into the market and goes, right, who's the best CEO to run my business? Oh, that would be me. Because I've never run a business before. Yeah. I've got no idea what I'm doing, but I'm the best person to run my business. So, but in a bigger business, you'd go out and find the best CEO that you can afford. Okay. The best CEO that's out there. And, we see it all the time in the big corporate world, CEO, like managers in football teams. They'll start with one club and then they'll completely mess that up. And then they'll get hired by another club and be very successful. So, and the other interesting thing is in a football team, if the football team performs badly, who gets fired?
Always the manager, mate.
Always the manager. In a business, when a business performs badly, who gets fired?
Little old me, mate.
Teams. So the CEO comes in and says, right, okay, my number one goal is to drive profit within the business. Okay, that's what the shareholders want, because through profit comes dividends and shareholder value. So that's my goal as the CEO of the business. Now, if it's just a one-man band, then okay, I've got a load more roles to fill to actually achieve that. But in a big organization, I can sit in my ivory tower, and my job as the CEO, and in the UK we call them managing directors, and I prefer that title because that title says what I actually do. I manage the directors. That's my job.
Yep.
Yeah. As long as my directors are doing what they should be doing, and we're getting an increase in profits, then I'm doing a good job. And if that means I work 1 hour a week and I come in on a Monday and go, right, guys, do you know what you're doing this week? Have you got everything you need to do that? What support can I give you? Nothing. Great. Well, I'm going to go off and play golf then, and I'll see you on Friday. Then great. Yeah. Because as long as the results are there, why shouldn't I be able to do that? So the MD then has to go and create their board of directors. Okay, so they're key people within the organization. And the key roles, and there's always 5 in any organization, at least 5, more if you break it down. So the first thing that we need to do in order to drive profits is what?
Sell a good service or product.
Sell a good service, you'd think, isn't it? But what do you need to do before you can sell?
Put the right people into place.
You've got to have, but if you haven't got the sales, then you don't need any people, do you? So, but before the sale, what needs to happen?
I don't know, mate. What would we say?
So before the sale, we've got to generate a lead. We've got to generate inquiry.
Oh, okay.
So we've got marketing.
That makes sense now that you say it.
Marketing is the start of the business. Okay, so the first person the CEO's got to go and find is the best marketing person who to delegate marketing to. So the number one goal of marketing is to generate leads. So if all you had to do, Brendan, was generate leads for this business, could I hold you accountable to that? Do me as the CEO need to be the world's expert in marketing? No, I don't. I just need to know that marketing generates leads. So if I'm getting leads in, then you're doing a good job. If I'm not getting leads in, then I need to have a word with Brendan and say, Brendan, what are you doing? How can I support you? What do you need? Okay. So that's the first role, is the marketing director.
So before you go on, Kevin, in that breakup, are you suggesting that if I'm a business owner and let's say I'm starting a business, that a really wise thing to do in the process of growing the business is to invest in a marketing type person as soon as possible?
I would say it depends. Okay, if you're a really good marketer, then no, you should be do them. Why would you get somebody else in to do a job that you're the best at? If you've got no idea about marketing, then 100% yes. Now, do you need to employ them? No, not to start with. Outsource it. There's loads of freelance marketing people out there. But if you don't understand enough about marketing and you give it to somebody who says, yeah, because have you ever seen a marketer that goes, do you know what? I really don't know how to market. I'm not too sure on this particular, TikTok marketing. Well, I don't know about that one. I'm really good on LinkedIn, but I'm not too sure about TikTok. No, like marketing people, like salespeople, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. And they'll take your money and then they'll deliver you not a lot. So if you don't understand enough about what you're delegating, then you're not going to know whether it's good or whether it's bad. The end result, though, is if you're not generating me leads, then it's not working. So we need to do something different. So to answer your question, it depends. But for most people, because most people starting businesses aren't expert marketers, yes, you need to go and find somebody who is good at marketing in the particular area that's is going to be the best way to get the most leads. But that's a whole different kettle of fish to actually work what that out. What that is.
So what's,
let's say,
in your experience then, what's stopping people, again, I'm going back to sort of business starting, and because what seems to happen is that the reality of business, people, let's say they want to start a business, they do start a business, and they feel like they've got to do a lot themselves because cash flow is minimal or next to nothing, let's say, to start with. So I get that mindset, and also understand exactly what you're saying, is that where do people fall off in the process? Is it in that they have that mindset to start with, and then once they're in that mindset, they keep going, they get caught up in business, and maybe the business is becoming successful, so they're on the hamster wheel, boom, 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 boom. Or is it that when they are successful, they have that mindset from the starting point, like you said, from that shareholder mindset angle, and hey, I need to set this business up as early as possible to delegate. What do you find works and is most successful in your experience?
I think most people I've been coaching over 17 years, and I've been in and around businesses since I was 11 years old, when my parents sort of started their own businesses. And I think the big thing for most people coming in is they got into the business because they love doing what they do. So the delivery of the service, delivery of the product, whatever that might be. What they didn't sign up for was everything else around it. Okay, so the other roles. So if I go back to if I finish the organization chart, then I think that it will become clear where they get stuck. Because we've only got one role so far. We've got the CEO, we've got the shareholder, we've got the CEO, and we've got the marketing director so far.
Yep.
Okay, so marketing directors, we've got a good marketing director, and they're producing us leads. Okay, so inquiries, the phone's ringing, emails are coming in. Yeah. So we therefore need the person you then spoke about, which was the sales director. Okay. So the sales director, number one goal is to do what?
Sell, sell, sell.
Sell, 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 which is in my terminology, conversion.
Okay.
Okay. So I've got to convert the lead that comes in from the marketing into a sale.
Mm-hmm.
So my conversion rate is my key performance indicator. So leads is my key performance indicator for my marketing person. Conversion is my key performance indicator for my salesperson. So you can see now a role has a goal. A goal is maximize your conversion rate, whatever that might be, plus 10%. Leads, whatever that might be, plus 10%. So once you've got a goal, then it's very easy to hold somebody accountable and delegate. If you don't have clear goals, then you can't delegate. Because people, how do you hold somebody accountable if they haven't got clarity what they're trying to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've got a great marketing person, we've got a great salesperson. Yeah, so they're converting, we're getting all this working. That then gets passed over to the operations director. Okay, so the ops director there, what they need to then do is deliver on time, on budget, on spec. Okay. So those are the magic three things in any manufacturing. I mean, but it's service based as well. Can you deliver it by the time that the salesperson has said that you can have it by, to the price that was quoted, and to the quality that is required. So again, I can hold that person accountable to those things. If we're delaying, then I need to come and have a chat with you. If the quality drops, I need to come and have a chat with you. And if we don't make the margin, then I need to come and have a chat with you. Now, the problem happens where you've got those three people. So if we go back to our profit and loss account, which is what we're keeping the score by, this is our scoreboard. Yeah, sales is a combination of leads and conversion rate. So if I'm not getting the sales that I need, so if I'm the CEO, managing director, and the sales aren't quite as good as they need to be, and I come to you, I've delegated marketing to you, Brendan. And I say, Brendan, why are we not getting the sales? As the marketing director, what are you going to say? What's your excuse going to be?
I don't like to live in a world of excuses, mate.
I know you don't. Imagine you're another marketing.
I've got to blame someone. Who am I going to blame?
Who are you going to blame? You can't blame yourself because you're working really hard. And,
it must be the CEO's fault. Whoever I'm reporting to, it must be the managing director's fault.
Well, you could try that one. That one doesn't really go very well in an organisation. But the easiest person to blame, the marketing person to blame, is the salesperson. But I'm generating leads. I'm hitting my targets. A leads. The sales guys are not converting them. So I go, okay, right. So I'll go and see the sales guy. Yeah, Mr. Mrs. Sales guy. Why are we not getting sales? Yeah, but I'm getting all these leads, but they're rubbish. Absolute rubbish. There's no way I can convert any of these. They are apps trash. So suddenly now we've got this conflict between marketing and sales. We've got this tension. So go back to your point about trust. If sales hasn't got the back of marketing and marketing hasn't got the back of sales, then we've got an organization that's never going to work. It's never going to be a high performance team. That's like in football, the strikers saying, well, I can't score goals because the midfield never give me the ball. Yeah, as soon as we get into that blame, excuses and denial, then we are, excuse my French, but we're screwed. So as the managing director, CEO, my job is to manage the directors. I need to make sure that the relationship between those two guys, is strong enough. When I go to them, they go, do you know what? This is a team effort. Yeah, I've got your back. You've got my back. So what do we need to do to increase our sales? Yeah, increase leads. Increase conversion rate. Now throw in the mix the operations director who's going to come along, and so maybe sales are okay, and I look at operations and say my gross margin. That's because that's the next number on the profit and loss account that we need to focus on. My GP. Yeah, my GP's down. We're not hitting the margin. So I go to the operations director and say, Mrs. Operations Director, why are we not hitting the margin? Who's the operations director going to blame?
It's got to be sales, mate. They're giving the product away, I suppose.
There's pricing it. I can't deliver it for that price. They're saying it's got to be done in a week, and our backlog means we're 3 months out now. Okay, so now I've got a tension between operations and sales and marketing. So if I can't bring those three together, then again, we're never going to have a business that's going to work. But let's say that we've got those three now working. So our fourth role then is the finance director. Okay, now that was my background, so I've done that for multi-million pound businesses. And it's a great role because it's probably alongside the CEO the only role that you get to see the whole organization. Marketing is marketing, it's lead generation. Sales is sales. But salespeople don't really care about anything else apart from sales. Operations, it's down in the weeds, it's fixing things, it's making things work. Finance, you've got to have that holistic view over the whole organization. But this is where finance then goes wrong, because, in my book, the number one goal of finance is the financial security of the business. Okay, it's the financial security. Finance people are not good marketeers. They're not good salespeople, and you should never let them build anything. So what happens is the finance is about financial security. So I own the purse strings. So I get to decide what we invest in, what we don't invest in. Yeah. Now, the best thing to do, because my job is the net profit. So I've got to look after the overheads of the business, make sure we're spending the right amount on rents, the people costs, wages, all those things. So the best way for me to influence the bottom line and to increase profit is to do what?
Reduce costs.
Reduce costs. Okay. So that's my part of my goal is to increase profitability. Therefore, the easiest thing and the first thing in my head is reduce costs. So when the marketing team come to me and say, look, I've got this fantastic marketing strategy, I think it's gonna really work, and I need 100,000 to invest over the next 12 months. What am I going to say as a finance director?
Show me the return on investment.
That would be a great question to ask, because no marketing person.
I'm sure you did that as a finance director, right?
I must admit, I can happily say that no, it was a case of no, you can't. You don't have it.
Oh, come on. That was too easy, mate, that part.
But I have learned that I was probably wrong in those days. When the operations director comes in and says, I need this new piece of equipment that's going to improve our efficiency, is going to improve that, but it's going to be £100,000. Can I have the money, please? Well, the interest rates are a bit high. Well, I don't think we can afford that. When the team come to us and want a pay rise, well, I don't know, I don't think we can afford that. When I want a new person, don't think we can afford that. So now it's great, because now sales, marketing, operations can all gang together, and who can they blame that they're not able to do what they want to do? Finance. Well, finance never gave us the money to do what we want to do, so that's why our results are so bad.
I think finance is definitely the best scapegoat.
So now the managing director's now got 4 relationships to manage. Okay, so it's getting harder each time. This is getting hard to manage, because they're all looking at it from completely different perspectives. From a cost basis, from an operational basis, from a big picture marketing basis, and a sales basis. And then the 5th one, which most people then forget about and don't put enough effort into, is HR. Okay, because you cannot build a business yet without great people. So if you think about it, sales, marketing, operations, and finance, they're all quite what I would call left brain, sort of logical, analytical, numbers, drive, push. If you don't have the balance of actually looking after the people, what happens is you don't have longevity of the business, because you'll get good people come in, they're pushed too far, and then they'll go, oh, screw this, I'm off. What equally happens is the bad ones that know they wouldn't get a job anywhere else stay. So you end up with an organization full of mediocre people that aren't really going anywhere, that aren't developed. Back to our first question, we're not training our managers because they're too busy doing the bits for their respective directors. So no one's looking at it from a personal development point of view. We're not having much fun, and we create a culture that is a bit toxic and certainly not high performance. So now we add in HR director, now suddenly HR is coming to us and going, we need to look after the people. Operations say we need to get more out of the people. So we've got all these balances to manage within an organization. And if we go back to our startup business, or a business in its sort of first 5 years, where you might have 5 people, if you looked at the 5 people, you're going to have probably, if you're lucky, 1 in finance. Yeah. You've probably got 3 operational people, of which you're 1 as well. So that's 4. So the biggest challenge for any business is now, who does the marketing? Who does the sales? Because if if I've got somebody that's doing marketing and sales and a bit of operations, and marketing goes wrong, what are they going to say? What excuse are they now going to give? I was too busy packing. I was too busy going out to see clients. I was too busy doing the finance and doing the administration. I was too busy doing staff appraisals. And that's the biggest factor, and why, what in my view, 98% of businesses never pass $1 million turnover. Not because they don't have the ability, it's because they're not structured well enough to be able to get them to that point. And delegation is a fundamental to that. Because if you've got the business owner who's doesn't like to delegate their finance because, I don't want anyone seeing my profit and loss account and knowing how much money I've got in the bank. That I built this business on my reputation, and therefore operationally, I need to be involved in operations. And actually, people buy people, and therefore they only buy me. So sales, and actually, I'm not really good at marketing at all. So I let a 12-year-old kid do my my social media marketing, and I don't have enough time to do any HR at all. So all my people actually hate me. That's why businesses get stuck, and they can't grow. They can't get beyond that. So what I do as a coach is I have to extract that business owner out of the detail, out of that hamster wheel, to take a look at the business. Because when I do that with the organization structure, for 99% of businesses, it's like, wow, because well, I'm the shareholder, I'm the CEO, I'm the marketing director, I'm the sales director, I'm the finance director, I'm the HR director. No wonder I'm so freaking busy. So what should I do? How do I do all this stuff? Well, you can't. And if you went into the business saying, well, I'm not going to do any of these things, then it's so much easier. But not impossible for most businesses, certainly in a startup phase. And that's why, now I come in basically as an investor in businesses with no intention of working in them. It's easy, absolutely so easy. I've got a finance person that I give all the finance to. I've got an HR company that I outsource all the HR to. I've got marketing people I get in to do the marketing. The only two things I need that company to be able to do is sales and operations. And generally, there's enough people doing the operations. So, if we don't have the sales in it, I'll just go and buy a salesperson. And they can drive the sales. So I can sit there and manage those people and get the results through the people on the pitch, rather than feeling I've got to be the one that jumps in and runs around chasing the ball.
Kevin, I have to say you've made it so simple, which is beautiful. It's elegant, fantastic. What I find a lot is that, certainly on product-related businesses, that the owner, managing director, let's say, irrespective of the size of the business at the moment, is the great technician, because that's sort of how they've started the business. What would you advise a person in that sort of position to start to delegate from? Because operations is just so busy, and you want them sort of out of that because it takes so much time. But if that's their sort of sweet spot, should they sort of focus on some other area of the business, again, whether it's marketing, sales, or financial side of things?
I think again, it depends what you're doing, but let's say it's manufacturing. And probably a good example of this is Dyson.
Mm-hmm.
I think Charles Dyson founded the company and went around trying to get investment, and no one would invest in it. He tried to sell his business to Hoover, and they said, no one's going to pay $600 for a vacuum cleaner. Because he's the inventor, he's the brains. That's the bit he loves doing. So if you took him out of doing that, he'd go, well, why would I want a business? Why would I want to do this? So So the key to this is that structure exists no matter what you do. Okay, you can't get away from, you need those people, but you can sit in any one of those boxes. Now, I know founders that are rubbish CEOs. Absolutely, they go, I don't want to be the CEO. I never came into this to manage people. I don't like people. I just want to be in this box. And you said it's generally an operational box. But you've got to then be prepared to put somebody in effect above you, to actually run the business. Now, while they're above you, they're not above you, because who does the CEO report to?
Shareholders.
So you're still a shareholder, but you've got to come at this from a shareholder perspective. So you've got to wear these two hats, and you can't come to work and do your day to day and then moan at the CEO and say, you can't tell me what to do because I own this company. You can't do that. Yeah. You've got to treat yourself as an employee of this business like anyone else. Yeah. And then when you have your quarterly board meeting, then you can be the shareholder. You've got to learn to bite your tongue and allow that person to do their job, whether you like it or not, and then come back as a shareholder and say, hang on a minute, that direction you're taking the business, I don't think that's the way we want to go. But you can't do that on a day-to-day basis, because you'll undermine the CEO, and you'll destroy because if you don't trust them, then the people you're working with, what are they going to think? So it's this is why it's simple, but it's far from easy. This is really tough stuff mentally for people to get their head around. But I would say the number one thing that if your listeners are here, one thing you've really got to be clear of is, what are you building? Where is your business going to be in 5 years, 10 years? What is your role in the business in 5, 10 years? Because if you don't have that visualization of that, then there's no way you're going to make it happen. I have this little thing called IVVM: idealize, visualize, verbalize, materialize. So if you can't have an idea and you can't visualize it, and then you can't verbalize it to people around you, it'll never happen. And that's where most businesses are, because they start because the business owner is fed up with working for an idiot boss. Doesn't like doing what. So I think I can make a difference, and I want control, and I want autonomy. So they'll start their business, and that's their goal. I want autonomy. I want to be able to do what I want to do, and I want to make some money. Yeah, and that money is generally around about the salary that they were paid when they had a job. So 50 grand, 100,000, whatever it might be. So they build a business that gives them autonomy, they think, freedom, they think, and around about 50 to 100,000 pounds of income per year. And then they go, job's done. That's it. I'm there. That's having a business. And then they realize, hang on a minute, I really don't have autonomy, because actually the staff tell me what to do, because the staff have 5 weeks holiday, and I probably haven't had more than 2 weeks holiday in the last 5 years. Yeah. The money I make, most of it goes on taxes, and most of it gets reinvested back in the business. So I don't really see much of the money. Yeah. And I'm probably working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Yeah, because at the weekends I have to do the finance. I try and do the marketing in the evenings, and I don't really have much of a life at all. And certainly, and I come across these businesses when we're looking to buy them, and they've been going 10, 20 years, and they're still at the same size they were after the first 5 years. And I go and say, well, how much do you want for your business? Oh, I think it's worth 500,000. No, it's not, because if you're out of the business, then what is there? I got 3 people that aren't particularly good because you've never trained them, and they only do what you tell them to do. Yeah, there's no marketing machine, there's no sales machine. Your finances, I've got no idea, because it's all done in a paper bag and sent off to the accountants once a year. Yeah, so I'm actually, all I'm buying is a customer database, and a brand name that isn't particularly good anyway.
Kevin, I think
the reality is they can't then sell their business, so they don't have the capital value, and they've never had the dividends. So as shareholders, they should be very, very upset. But they don't see themselves as shareholders. They see themselves as, they've bought themselves a job, basically.
Mm. Yeah, which, like you alluded to, I don't think anyone starts out like that, wanting to buy themselves a job. They have these ideas of grandeur. So I think what you're saying, to sum up some of this, is that the owner in this context has to have some perspective about what their business looks like in 5 to 10 years, which you said.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, you've actually got to start the mind shift, the mindset you've got in place from day one of actually already being the managing director of a large business, even though if it is just you, because if you don't, then that's the mind shift you have to be in to start with. Is that like that? That's what I feel like you're saying.
Yeah. I think you should, and in a way, I believe now that no one should be allowed to start a business unless they've done a basic course on it. You don't allow people to drive a car unless you've done a basic course.
Yep.
A business is a far more dangerous vehicle than a motor vehicle. So, and I think you've got to understand how, because most people don't even know how a business is organized. They say when I go through that organization chart, it's like the first time they've ever seen it. So just that concept in itself, and saying, look, this business, as a shareholder, you want this business to grow, make dividends, and have a value that you could sell at some point in the future. And also, what is financial freedom? At what point do you get to choose whether you work or don't work? I mean, people don't, they get to 50, 60, 70 years old, and you say, well, when can you stop? Well, I can't. I'm on the hamster wheel, and I've been on the hamster wheel 20 years, and I can't get off. And when I come into it, trying to fix those businesses is quite difficult, because A, they're so ingrained in the way they do. Changing the habits of a lifetime is very difficult. And B, the business owner is probably so tired and fed up at that stage, is they don't want to learn new stuff. It's much better to get them early on and get into their mindset at that stage that, right, this is what we need to do over the next 5-10 years time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you said this before we started recording, but you said you actually do spend a fair bit of time in that mindset, mind shift space. Relating to what I just said, is that the space that you're spending time in with business owner type people, trying to get their mind into a different space in order to move in the direction you've just spent time explaining?
Yeah, I suppose it depends on the size of company I'm working with. So for a bigger business, I'm generally working as the person above, in the role above. Okay, so if I'm dealing with a CEO of a large organization, then I'm working as a friendly shareholder. Okay, so I'm asking the CEO questions that shareholders should be asking, but they can actually talk to me at that level without coming across, because you wouldn't go to your shareholder and go, you know what, I've got no idea what I'm doing here. I'm really struggling. I have a lot of people at that level that have imposter syndrome. That they feel, geez, I'm here, but really, am I really here? Do I really deserve being in charge of this company? And there's no way that person is going to go to their next level above, their shareholders, and go, do you know what, I don't know. So we can talk about those things, so I can see it from a shareholder's perspective, but then provide support and a safe place for us to talk through things. It's not that they don't know, it's just that they need to verbalize these things and throw them out there before they get their headspace right, and then move on. And that's a big thing for a lot of people, is unless we can verbalize it. I talk IVVM, idealize, visualize, verbalize, materialize. If we can't talk these things through, if we can't talk these things through, then we reduce the chance of them being successful. And also it stops, we have a lot of CEOs that employ a lot of yes people around them, because people want to impress their bosses and CEOs, so they'll agree with them. So very few of your subordinates will challenge you. Okay, because well, can't challenge the boss if the boss thinks it's the right thing, but the boss is just going based on what they know. I think this is the right way forward, and I can come in as an equal and go, actually, I don't. That's a stupid idea. So let's look at it in more detail. If we go further down, and it's a smaller business and they're in the mix of things, then maybe I'm the CEO and they're the ops director, or they're the sales director, I'm the CEO. Yeah, and if we go to a smaller business, they're the operative and I'm the ops director. Okay, so I'm at that one level above that they are, in order to give them the confidence and knowledge and that training. We talked at the early, no one teaches you how to delegate. One of the things that I have to do is teach you how to delegate and let go of these. How do you delegate finance when you've got no idea what finance is about? All you can do is abdicate it, and that's when businesses go completely wrong. They abdicate the finances to somebody who's, I'm not saying they're always crooked, but if you've got access to money and you've got some problems, then you'll find the simplest solution, which is often stealing from the business. And I had one business that I came across, and the finance director was providing them management accounts that all looked wonderful. And then the VAT man, tax man came along, knocked at the door and basically said, you owe us £70,000, which they didn't know they owed, because the guy had been fiddling the accounts and pulling money out of the business and hiding it. And if you don't understand finance, you'll never know where to find this stuff. So that's a big part, in educating on marketing, sales. I'm very much a generalist, so I understand all the areas. I'm apart from the finance, I'm probably not particularly great at any one, but I understand how they work and therefore how we should delegate them the best.
I think it's a super important point for you just to share a little bit more, or explain a little bit more on abdicate versus delegate, because I definitely agree with you that whole abdicating of things is not delegating, and it's a very dangerous slope to get into, abdicating. Just tell us a bit more about the difference in abdicating versus delegating.
I think delegating, as I said at the start, is you delegate the outcome, you delegate the goal. Okay, so if I said to you, let's go back to the marketing. Okay, so I'm going to employ you as the marketing director. So I'm employing you to generate leads, and therefore these are the number of leads that need to be generated over the next 3 months. Okay, so you're very clear now what the outcome of that is. Okay, so I can hold you accountable and keep on track to that goal. Abdicating is, Brendan, you do the marketing. And I'll come back in 12 months' time and go, sales are a bit down this year. Why are sales down? I don't know. Let's have a look at that.
Does it seem to you that abdicating happens all too often compared to delegating?
Abdication is easy. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan it. I don't have to worry how good Brendan is, in order to abdicate stuff to you. Yeah, it's basically, right, I've cleared it out of my head and I've got rid of it, so it's not bogging me down anymore. But what I haven't done is I haven't delegated it, in a way that you understand and is going to work for us. So it's like a lot of things, go back to blame, excuses and denial. The only reason we do that is because it's easy. You hold me accountable to something and I can blame, Charlie next door. It takes no thought process, no effort. And we learn this is what I call child behavior. Where children are growing up, they start off in denial. Okay, they're blissfully unaware. They have no responsibility for themselves. Then they start to grow up and they learn the excuses. You ask them to have you I don't have children, so I don't know what you'd sort of ask a 4-year-old.
Have you put the toys away?
To start making excuses, and then they'll get a sibling or go to school and they'll start learning blame. Now, the key to that is, where do they learn those skills? where do children learn the skills of excuses and blame?
Culture is a reflection of leadership, mate. Mum and dad must come into it there.
Say parents, because what do parents do? It's the easy thing when you're dealing with a 4-year-old child is to make excuses and blame other people. So we're teaching them, and that those are easy things to do. Taking ownership and responsibility and holding yourself accountable is difficult. We're talking about my writing a book. I took ownership and I said I was going to write a book, and my first book, and starts off really well, and then it gets hard, it gets difficult, and then it's easier to, oh well, I was too busy, I was doing something else. Oh yeah, well, does it really matter? Is anybody going to read it? So you start, and I went through the same part. I started to make excuses, blame other people why the book wasn't finished. At the end of the day, the only reason was me, and that's that point. As I then took ownership and said, right, well, I need help with this. So I took on a book coach, and said, look, I just need that accountability of somebody to report to on a week-by-week basis to make sure that I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. Now, there are people out there that hold themselves accountable, that are disciplined beyond belief. I've just finished David Goggins' book. I don't know if you read that.
I haven't, but I've got it on my in my whole pile of books.
The guy is just, he's off this planet of self-discipline, of pushing himself because he wants to do it. Yeah. Most of us aren't that disciplined. It's easy just to, go and sit and watch telly for 3 hours, or go walk the dog, or, go eat that Mars bar. We're as human beings, we are notoriously bad at self-discipline. So that accountability to somebody else, is why coaching exists, because, I've got a PT instructor now because I know that I wouldn't go to the gym unless there was somebody there that was going to make me do what I'm going to do, So I have to accept that my lack of discipline is going to cost me. I have to pay for these services. Yeah. But if the outcome of the goal is that important to me, then I'll do whatever it takes. So if we don't have the money, then we've got to be more self-disciplined ourselves. If we do have the money, then just pay somebody to actually hold you accountable and help you along the way. It's much, much easier. Or you just go and blame excuse and well, I never wanted to build a business anyway. I never wanted to earn lots of money. I never wanted to be financially free. Yeah, that's just it.
Sounds like a cop-out.
Definitely cop-out.
Back to the 6-person leadership team, including the managing director. In what you've explained, what's the managing director's role? What's their key focus?
The key focus, one, is to make sure the 5 that they've got are the best they can have at that particular time. Okay, that they are developing each one of those people and moving them forwards, supporting them, holding them to account, because everybody needs to be held to account, and given the resources they need to deliver the job. So, as I said, they're constantly, there should be tension between each of those 5 roles. Okay, and tension is like a tightrope. Yeah, if the tension is too much, the tightrope breaks and we all fall to the ground. If the tension is too slack, then we all wobble around and fall off. And in my opinion, most businesses are built on too slack tension. Okay, there isn't enough tension between those roles that drive performance. So back to Patrick Lencioni's, really great book. The first level is trust. You can't build a team unless you've got trust. The second level is fear of conflict. That says great teams actually have conflict. They disagree on things. They're not scared to put their opinion across. But accept that when a decision is made, it's for the best reasons. And we all get behind the reason. It may not be my reason, maybe one I don't agree with, but if that's the reason, then I'll back it 100%.
Yeah, absolutely, and that leads into what.
And that's if you go back to the forces, that is what's trained into the forces so much. Okay? You are, and I'm talking the elite. This is the SAS and they are 100%, it's built on trust. They do all their training is about, you've got to trust those guys around you, because people go to war not for their country, they go to war for their mates, and they're there to protect the people around them. So but if you feel that I can't speak my mind and I can't put my opinion forwards, then that's not going to work, because you're just going to follow somebody. It's going to get a bit difficult, and then you're going to run away. So that fear of conflict is so important. And then the next level from that is then commitment. That once I feel that I can say what's on my mind, then I can commit to it. Then there's accountability, then there's results. And that's it, sort of five levels there. But fundamentally, if you don't have the trust at the base level, then you're never going to move forward.
Yeah, I love it, mate. At the Cultural Leadership, we are definitely big fans of Lencioni's work, without a doubt. And around that fear of conflict, he says something like, if you don't allow people to buy in or to weigh in, they'll never buy in, which relates to that fear of conflict, having the strong tension, as you say. It's, very much relate to it.
And that comes back to that leader, is got to be somebody who draws out of people, that understand, you've got to, because very often those 5 people in that boardroom are going to be completely different. Your marketing person is going to be quite big picture thinking, but quite sort of detail orientated. Your salesperson is going to be very people focused. Your operations is probably going to be, again, more logical, analytical. Your HR person, more people, and your finance person, again, attention to detail. And that's why we use DISC profiling. So the first thing we do is profile the team, because I want to see what profiles we've got and how, and they need to understand that they're going to look at the world differently. They are not going to see it the same. And that's a good thing, because you want them to speak their mind around those things, not hold it inside. So as a leader, I've got to be able to know the quiet ones and give them space and time to think and speak. I've got to have the extrovert people who like to talk. I need to know when to tell them to shut up. Okay, because if I've got one of those and I've got a quiet person, that person is going to talk all over, and they're going to come across very confident. Yeah. And therefore we'll end up going just for their ideas. Whereas that quiet person, I might need to see afterwards and go, that meeting we had, yesterday, do you really agree with what we're trying to do there? Or I could see something in your eyes that felt that we needed to go down a different route. What was it? So if you're not seeing what your players are doing and thinking, because you're too busy doing stuff, then that's 100% what the leader, the CEO should be doing. Really understanding their players and knowing, and you look at the top football coaches, sorry to come back to football, but any sport, is they understand their players. They really know, and they have the respect and trust of every single player. And they don't treat them as a whole, they treat them as individuals. And that's what you need time to do when you're running an organization, is you've got to have time with each person, to actually get the best out of them. And I see it as there's a continuum of management to leadership. We talk about this difference between what is leadership, management. Leadership is where you've got amazing people, and you can come in on a Monday and say, right, we're going to do this. This is where we're going to go. Are you clear what you need to do? Great, get on with it. And you leave them to it. Management is where you've got a bunch of less competent people. Okay, I'm not saying incompetent, less competent people, and you need to be on them every single minute of the day. And it's like having, if you're looking at a kindergarten with 4 5-year-olds, do you need to spend every minute of the day with them?
Yep.
Okay. If you're dealing with really good adults, mature adults who are well trained and experts in their field, do you need to spend every minute of the day with them? No, you don't. So you've got management down at the bottom end and leadership at the top. The bit that we forget, and the bit that the most important, is the bit in the middle, is coaching. So I would say to everybody, stop seeing yourself as a leader and stop seeing yourself as a manager. Start seeing yourself as a coach. And if you come at it from a coaching perspective and say, right, my job is to coach those 5 people, yeah, you'll come at it from a far, far better way to actually delegate, because coaches don't do the work, they delegate, but also support, motivate, and drive your team to high levels of performance.
I love that perspective. What would you say to, so we talked a lot about the business owner, the top of the tree, so to speak, the shareholder. If I'm a person who's in an organization and I'm leading a department, again, it might be a customer service team or something like that, should I have that same mindset around delegation and my core focus being getting this group of people that are in my company working together well?
I think it's, no matter if you're managing people, then treat it the same way. Okay, your goal is probably smaller, but no less important. So go through the same thing. What is the goal? What does success look like? What's the vision of this department in the next? Maybe you can't go 5 years, but maybe you could go 12 months. What are we trying to build here? What does good look like? What does great look like? Go back to Jim Collins, good to great. Good is the enemy of great. So don't settle for goodness, settle for greatness. Get your team on board, because the best way to inspire a group of people is give them a vision. Guys, this is where we're going to go. This is what we're going to build. Yeah. And even if you're just a customer service team, yeah. Okay. So how do we become the best customer service team we could possibly be? What does that look like? What's your role in that? What's my role in that? What support do I need to give you to actually achieve that? One of the best stories I heard was, I'd say whether it's true or one of these fables, but Kennedy during the 60s when he went to Cape Canaveral, and there's a guy sweeping the floor, and so he was going, so what do you do? He says, I'm here to put a man on the moon. And he went, well, you're just a cleaner, aren't you? He said, yeah, but I've got to clean this to the point where it's spotless, because one speck of dust could stop that rocket getting to the moon and back. That's the man that was clear what his role was, what his goal was, that had passion about it, could be held accountable to that. And that's down at what you would say is the lowest level within the space organization. And that's what great leaders inspire in their teams, is everybody knows what their role is, what their goal is, how they contribute, and they feel valued and worth from actually achieving that.
So Kevin, we're going to start to wrap this up, and pretty much generally the final question we ask people is, what's the one thing that's helped make you become a more confident leader?
I think the big thing is personal development. That I was told sort of, when I start on the coaching journey, if you can read a book a week, then you'll be well ahead of the game. Now, I would love to say I can read a book a week. Probably a book a month is what I read. There's a bookcase there of most of the things, and with audio books these days, you can have one on the car, and if you do 10 minutes a day, you'll be amazed how quickly you get through it. Because successful people, what they do is once they've got that level of success, they like to teach people about it. So they write a book, and there's just so much out there. So if there's a leader out there that isn't reading, they're not really a leader. You're not setting an example. So read yourself. If you're a bigger organization, get your team reading. So I do a book club every 3 months. So I give 3 books, my recommendation, and my clients go away, read those, and I encourage them to get those books, stick them on a shelf, get their team to read them as well. You've got to open your mind, because none of this stuff is rocket science, but you've got to find your style of leadership, your style of delegation. There's no one way of doing this, but the more people you listen to, you learn from, the easier it is to feel, I like that bit there and I like that bit there. So everything I've talked about today, I'd love to say is original, but nothing in the world is original. It's all recycled and presenting a slightly different way. I'd give myself to being hopefully a master chef, that I take the same ingredients everyone else is using, but package it in a way that is really tasty and rememberable. And that's really what every leader needs to be able to do.
Yeah, I really like that. I can see how you are a bit of a master chef, because what you've given great context to this subject of delegation, where people should be able to relate this topic, and how you've given the context to it, whether you're, again, right at the top of the tree, or whether you're on this journey up that tree and you're starting leading a team for the first time. You've really given it that context to help people relate to it. So absolutely, mate. There's not too many, if any, original ideas around, but the uniqueness of you, and obviously what you've done over a long time, 17 odd years in coaching, is obviously paying off. The other interesting thing that I think, to me, one of the experiences I've had, and I spend a lot of time with leaders, particularly in the early stages, doing a lot of work around their one-on-one meetings and disciplines around that. Given your experience and see the investment side of things and buying and selling business you're into, there's a real skill in leading back to that managing director. You've got to be able to facilitate groups of people. And actually, that's what I find people at the top, they haven't had that level of experience to be able to facilitate and create that tension amongst people. And this is where I can see, mate, you'd be, I think you and your investments and what you're doing and how you're bringing those groups of people, I'm sure it works very, very well, because there's no doubt in my mind that you've got those, not only the finance boring skills that you have, but all those other things you touch on, and then your ability to facilitate without an absolute doubt in the world, mate. So I said that this understand, or what's helped you become a confident leader, is the last question. But one thing I have to ask you is, how did a boring old accountant like yourself become so good about business as a whole?
I think, and that's the interesting thing. I've always, when I said about the finance director, it's the only position in the organisation that sees the big picture. So I started in accountancy because my father was an accountant and he bought a business and ran that business for some 15 years. So I got into finance because I felt it was a great starting place, that, I can get into this and understand business, and then that will then take me to where I want to go. I didn't know where I wanted to go at the time, but I knew that that basis would allow me to expand. And then really the journey from there was, in an accountancy practice. Then I became a finance director of a fast growth company, and that was where I learned, in a way, I didn't realize it at the time, but those individual roles, because I worked with two amazing brothers. One was a sales guy through and through, one was an operations guy through and through, but the business wasn't growing because they didn't know their numbers. So I came in to supplement those. So between the three of us, we were, we basically, you could have taken us three and we could have run any business at all. I 100% believe that, because we had that sort of balance that we needed. We trusted each other implicitly. We could almost second guess what the other person was thinking, but they were thinking from a completely different perspective to us. We didn't always agree, but when we did, we got behind the person, and we built a very, very successful business on the back of that. And that, then I went into a bigger organization where we didn't have that. We had a narcissistic managing director. Yeah, we had an operations director that wanted to be the narcissistic managing director. And it was a toxic, horrible organization. And it was just, on paper, it was doing all right, but underneath it was just horrible. And, and I couldn't change it. I couldn't influence it from where I was. And I think that was one of the big reasons I then left. And I went to do my MBA, because I'd been in these two organizations and I wanted to know what was going on. So I wanted to go and learn about this stuff and how you build great businesses. Now, the MBA was good, but it wasn't until I started with an action coach, which had basically pulled all together a lot of this stuff over 20 years to actually really understand at a small business level. But every big business is just a small business with lots more people. So It's just easier to see everything in a small business because it's not hidden by bureaucracy and people in offices that you never see.
Yeah, mate, great points. And I think thank you for, or lucky for everybody in the businesses you've helped and will continue to help in the future, that you've had that as part of your journey, because it's really sort of helped you understand business at a greater level. So well done on what you're doing, mate. Keep inspiring, keep working with great businesses, keep buying and selling and doing all those great things that you're doing along the way. So thanks for being a fantastic guest on the Cultural Leadership today, buddy.
Great to be on, Brennan. Really enjoyed it.
If you won't delegate, don't complain about time constraints and stall business growth. The onus is on you. Take control, shift your thinking, and learn to delegate. These are my 3 key takeaways from my conversation with Kevin. My first key takeaway: confident leaders set clear goals. They understand the role of each person on the team and set clear expectations for what success looks like in the role. When this is in place, they provide support, resources, and accountability to help ensure the goals are achieved. My second key takeaway: confident leaders delegate, which is easier to do when you've set clear goals. By entrusting responsibilities linked with these goals, it ensures both the leader and employee are aligned. Effective delegation not only streamlines tasks, but also ensures the employee's focus is aligned with the company's overarching goals. My third key takeaway: confident leaders don't employ yes people. They value employees who question the status quo and give different perspectives. They understand that growth comes from embracing diverse viewpoints and are comfortable being challenged. Inviting feedback and encouraging others to voice differing opinions creates a more robust and innovative decision-making process. So in summary, my 3 key takeaways were: confident leaders set clear goals, confident leaders delegate, and confident leaders don't employ yes people. Let me know your key takeaway on YouTube or at thecultureofleadership.com. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the best outcome is on the other side of a genuine conversation.